religion was a thing, shame was a thing, there was no social media, women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays, I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away from these.
Just be confident. Just be confident. Yeah, just, be confident. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll find the right girl eventually. Well, thanks, but I was hoping for some more substantial advice. Like, my mom told me the exact same thing, and it isn't really all that practical or specific. So there may be Hello?
To just sleep with random men that they have no emotional or physical connection to, right? They're just not built for that, okay? It's not. This is why, again, women struggle with one-night stands, right? Normal women who don't sell.
Before we get started on what is going to be the final part of this little mini-series that I've got going on here, I want to give you guys a bit of a recap. Now, obviously, you guys saw some clips from the previous couple of videos on this topic, and you also saw a couple more things that I added in. Of course, we got to ask the question, does the red pill movement actually help men? So, let me just go ahead and say this. It definitely helps a lot more than what the blue pill community does. The blue pill community teaches men to, quite frankly, be simps. However, there are a lot of people out there who think that the red pill community, quite frankly, teaches men some values that are not exactly what we call good. However, when you actually boil it down, you got to be able to separate the good from the bad. Like I've always said, this type of movement actually helps men out. Except, of course, you've got some people out there who go a little bit crazy with it. And next thing you know, they're practically mistreating women. And, of course, you've got some people out there who, quite frankly, at the same exact time, will also give comments on like, well, your marriage fell apart because you didn't marry a virgin, things like that. Because a lot of these guys who say stuff like that don't exactly have any actual honest-to-God life experience. I already know some people already cut this video off, getting upset, saying, oh my God, this guy right here's a blue pill, he's an anti-rib. No. I am very, very much the anti-SJW crowd, and I'm also very, very much anti the men being effeminate crowd. The reason why is because effeminate men end up turning into useless vessels. That's what the hell they end up becoming, and they also ruin a society. If anything, now I sound like very, very much a red pill guy. However, I do believe that there's a happy medium between the red and white. Now, guys, I want to say this. I want to make this very, very loud and clear one more time. I do not believe in black pills. The black pill community, I think, does a lot of harm because it gives men a very, very negative perception of everything around them. Now, I can already hear somebody saying, well, whoa, doesn't that right there, isn't that what the red pill community does? No, it does not. See, sometimes the red pill can sometimes turn into the black pill if used actually wrong. However, at the same time, if it's used wrong and ineffectively, it could also create a bunch of blue-pilled simps. I believe that there's a happy medium all the way around, but we do need to talk about this. And, of course, you guys saw, obviously, there was a clip from Macabre Storytelling. There was a small bit of clip from the Timcast IRL special that had Fresh and Fit on the other night. And, of course, there's also a small light bit that came from Greg Foreman, Black Conservative Perspective, who I think had one of the best takes on this entire topic. But before we get to him, I want to go ahead and kind of play this little clip from Macabre Storytelling. It was from the video Dating and Relationships, a Problem Hidden in Plain Sight. I will leave the full video in the description box, as well as the full podcast episode, and of course the full segment that Greg Foreman did. All three of those will be in the description box and inside the actual comment section itself. With that right there being said, let me go ahead and play this one clip for you so that way you guys can kind of see exactly where we're going with this.
Well, let me use a little play to demonstrate. Hello there. I am a young man who has very low social calibration and no romantic experience. This is wearing tremendously on my self-esteem, and I am desperate to gain the skills I need to hopefully be able to feel better about myself or even enter a fulfilling relationship. Hello there. We are the seduction community. We have been where you are and know how you feel and can give you the skills to improve your life. Oh, well, thank you, kind sirs. Whoa there. These guys may seem like your saving grace, but their methods may lead to you only seeing women as objects to be won. Ah, yes, I can see that. Glad you let me know this before I got too deep into it. Bye, cringe lords. No. Awesome. So, can you help me? Help you with what? Well, like I said, I am pretty insecure when it comes to women. Oh, well, just be confident. Just be confident? Yeah, just, be confident. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll find the right girl eventually. Well, thanks, but I I was hoping for some more substantial advice. Like, my mom told me the exact same thing, and it isn't really all that practical or specific. So there may be Hello?
Granted, Macabre's talking about the PUA community. If you watch the full video, you will see exactly where he's going at with this. As a matter of fact, I used to be very, very much in the camp of watching the PUA content. However, I do want to go ahead and say this real quick before we go any further about the PUA community. A lot of these communities actually teach men some very good things. There are some men out there who've got anxiety issues where it just shows up while they're on the phone with a person while ordering a pizza. They're talking to a female. They have no idea what the hell this girl looks like. And all of a sudden, their blood pressure goes up and they just flat out stutter. They can't speak because their social skills are very bad. I would say that what men need to do is maybe learn more social skills. And I would say that what needs to happen, especially the current incel culture that we have, I would say that the biggest reason why they have a problem with this is because there's a lack of human touch. They're not actually getting out and doing anything. They're not actually talking to people. They're not actually going out of their way to meet women, okay? After a while of making a bunch of mistakes and getting rejected a bunch of times, which, by the way, is a part of the process, eventually you will find your craft and you will eventually find something that actually fits. That was being made with that clip was that a lot of men will go to the PUA community or the red pill community seeking some form of guidance, and then all of a sudden the blue pill community, as you saw with Charlie and all the others over there, they will basically tell men to be confident and not give them the skills or the tools that they need, not exactly explain anything to them, just up and abandon them. So what the hell do you think happens as a result of this? The guy in the middle that you saw there eventually goes to the PUA community. Now, guys, really quick, I want to go ahead and say this right now. I do not believe that that community is full of a bunch of bad actors. I believe that there are some bad actors, but not a lot as you might would be portrayed. Now, granted, I can already hear somebody say there's a lot of bad actors. First of all, that community has got thousands of channels here on this platform, and I would suggest that only a small percentage, maybe anywhere between 10 to 15% probably have bad intentions. There's probably the 10 to 15% whose message gets constantly misconstrued. There's additional 20% in there, which, of course, their message also gets convoluted. But then you have half of those people out there who eventually become the white pill guys, are really and truly trying to go out of their way to help men out so that way men can actually succeed. Now, I have said before that I'm not the biggest fan of Fresh and Fit, and we'll get to that here in a second because, of course, as they do give a lot of very good advice, they've also had some practices that kind of makes you think twice about listening to these guys. Like, for example, they DMCA'd everybody who made a form of criticism about them. I typically have a problem listening to admin preach all the time, but a lot of times they do get it correct, and for the most part, I actually thought that they were mostly correct in their little beef with Fresh and Fit. However, at the same time, though, I understand that Fresh and Fit was going out of their way to help men out. However, this right here may also be somewhat misguided, as I'll get to here in a second. Rollo Tomasi has been doing this crap for a long time, and you probably think to yourself, my God, he's the godfather of the red pill. However, there's a problem with Rollo. And it's a big problem. Rollo, while it's a beautiful thing to be married to a woman your entire life, to be with the same woman your entire life, daughter, family, it's a beautiful thing to have, being married that one person your entire life. However, I don't think that men who are currently struggling with dating and relationships need to go with a person who's only been with one woman. I think that that man needs to seek out advice from people who are actually in the field and actually dating. It's very, very easy to sit behind to sit inside of a house where you have a wife. And by the way, I'm not saying this to attack him or anything. I'm just simply saying I somewhat disagree. I mean, I don't sit there and listen to the guy daily or anything, but of course I'll see him on with Michael Sartain, who I actually think Sartain, like Sterling Cooper, is actually trying to help. And I oftentimes look at this guy and say, dude, what is your experience? You've only been with one woman your entire life. I need to be around somebody who actually interacts with women, has dated women, has actually been through the dating scene. And you get other guys out there who do exactly what I said at the very beginning of the video. They say, well, your relationship fell apart, your wife left you because you did not marry a virgin. I hate to tell you this, but the average age of men's marriage, especially in today's society, is a little bit older than you might would have actually thought. This is the 1950s. It's not the 1960s. We're living in a consumer-based society, and we're living in a society that, quite frankly, is too dependent on social media. As a matter of fact, social media, I think, is the biggest problem in today's world. It's basically self-vanity projects, and at the end of the day, it ends up depressing people. Also, men get a very, very, let's just say they get a negative, and they also get a misconception of real women. I mean, how many of you guys have opened up your Instagram app and you see all these beautiful women, lingerie, thong bikinis out there on the beach, and you got to ask yourself, does this woman really and truly look like this in real life? Chances are she probably doesn't. There's a lot of filters up there. I mean, have you guys ever heard the expression that, look, when she puts her picture out there on Facebook, you got 2 women once you get rid of the makeup. You got 4 women the minute you get rid of the filters. You got 16 the minute you get rid of the meds. Fact of the matter is that these women, for the most part, are doing some form of airbrushing. This is not exactly who the hell they really and truly are. I advise you guys go check out the Woman's Brain versus Man's Brain lecture from Dr. Mark Gungor. He's a minister. I think I'll leave it in the description box. He gets panned too, but for the most part, most of what he said is exactly what I've experienced in my life, especially when it comes to the dating world. Well, daggone, why are you talking about dating? You're single yourself. Okay, I've been in a lot of relationships. I've had a lot of failures. And of course, I've also had some successes. And again, the failures obviously outweigh more of that because guess what? You're going to get rejected more times than you are accepted. It's just a fact of life. You can't be scared of rejection. You got to go out there and you've actually got to do things. Reasons why I'm single have actually got nothing to do with the fact that I can't get out there and actually speak to people. It's got to do with other issues like injuries. Can't walk around like I used to. Can't do what I actually want to do. The money is not there. Obviously, there are certain things that are obviously going to keep you in place. And also at the same time, sometimes you can chase a little bit too much. It's called a happy medium. It's called a happy balance. What I say when it comes to the topic of gaming. I am not against gaming and I'm not against gamers. I also don't believe that video games, even though I have a lot of books and I've read some of this stuff on the topic, I don't believe that video games enhance violent behavior or anything. I think that Adam Carolla got 100% correct when he basically said that video games don't create stupid people. Video games just make stupid people do stupid crap. There's a happy medium there. It's called doing it in moderation. That's always been my philosophy. You do it in moderation. Chances are if you do it in moderation, you find some type of happy balance. Everybody goes home happy and everybody ends up succeeding. The fact of the matter is, if you use certain things for the right reason, that's basically what the goal is to use it for the right reason, not be completely reliant upon it. I know it may sound a little bit weird, but after a while, some people go into this stuff and they get completely, totally, heavily consumed in it, and they're oftentimes getting a very, very negative reception, or they're getting a very, very negative perception of what is real. It's almost like pornography, for instance. I mean, it gives quiet, very, very sharp dopamine hits is what it gives. I think quiet and sharp's a little bit kind of weird interpretation. I'm going off script here. But it gives dopamine rushes, and after a while, it completely desensitizes the brain. Basically, what I'm saying is that and by the way, I'm not a guy who likes porn or anything like that. I've never really actually been impressed with it because I'm the type of guy that would much rather be doing the act rather than watching somebody else do the act. But still, at the same time, though, you got people out there who are addicted to it, and quite frankly, they need to get off it. Now that I got that rant out of the way, I want to go ahead and say this. I talked about body counts in video number 1. I asked the question if men needed to arm themselves, and I also asked the question if marriage was even worth it. I think, number 1, a woman's body count does matter because at the end of the day, it's all about trust. When you're trying to have a wife, you're trying to actually maintain a marriage. Also something else too, and I don't think I hit on this hard enough, but Myron and Fresh talked about this a lot on the podcast, the episode he did with Tim, is that a lot of women want to get married nowadays, but they don't actually want to maintain the relationship in the actual marriage. There's some men out there who also do the exact same thing, but they're a little bit more fewer and far between. Fact of the matter is that right now we're asking ourselves a question, is dating and relationships even really and truly worth it? It is worth it. You need to go out there and do that, so that way you can create a legacy, so that way not only can you create a legacy, but create an actual family and contribute to the society. The society that we're living in right now is too reliant on social media, it's too reliant on superficial crap. We are worshiping the creations and not the creator anymore, and that way there's part of the reason why we're in this the situation that we're in. This is one of the main reasons why it is that anytime somebody comes out here and tries to give us blue pill content, I almost think that type of channel, that type of content needs to be banned off of YouTube. The reason why is because, quite frankly, it does not teach men good values. But of course, you got people out there who want the red pill removed because they think the red pill is a little bit too misogynistic. No, I think the red pill movement is actually teaching men some actual serious skills. It's just to what extent, which is exactly what we're going to be speaking about right now. So are men really and truly getting a positive perception of women? Now, guys, I'm going to roll this little segment right here, which is, by the way, back from the previous. So it's going to be a relatively lengthy one. Make sure you guys listen to it all the way through because obviously some good points are brought up.
The women that your sons are going to talk to aren't going to have fathers. So though I know it's optimal, yeah, like it's what you're saying is optimal. I agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah.
But my thing is I'm adapting guys for the new normal. These girls are hoes, man. I'm just like,
Once again, this thing here called a cell phone permeates homes, bombshells, everything. Because guess what? That girl that's a small town girl, she might be beautiful, young, and purity wise, but she can on TikTok. Her friends hit her on social media. Come with us to Miami for a vacation, girl. Leave your husband for a little bit.
Let's go to Tulum.
The moment she leaves or gets on social media, it's a wrap. Because guess what? That whole, I want to say, agenda of, okay, stick to one man, family is great. But once this gets into her hands, bro, you never know. You never know.
Really? Okay, here's the deal.
Like, because you're saying like, go up, talk to the girl, etc. Let me just give you guys the game plan, okay? A woman's goal is to sell you purity so that you commit to her. The man's goal is to sell success so that she'll want to commit to, so that he can give commitment to her to some degree if he finds her attractive. I want guys to be able to detect if a girl is actually pure or not. The only way you're going to be able to see a woman's character and her purity, because she's going to tell you a bunch of BS, you need to get out there and deal with girls. You need to be able to pick up on certain red flags that you're only going to gain through dating experience and dealing with a multitude of women. But you won't know the better.
Dating and
if you
having
don't.
sex with 50 women are different things. Like, how long would it take to date 50 people and have sex with them?
Okay.
Like, because I think like that's
think
what we're
they're
talking
saying-
about right now is for the general population, which is debauchery, casual sex. Like, I'm
Fighting
talking
fire with fire,
Okay,
man.
but I'm talking to the. I want to talk to the 1% of men who are willing to, however many women. It doesn't matter the number of women that you have sex with. It doesn't matter as long as you're in pursuit of that purpose. But I'm talking to this 1% of men who are willing to find the woman that I'm referring to when I talk about my wife, to find her, to wait for her, to commit to her, and to do that
I agree with.
without.
But I'm giving the real of what they really are dealing with. These women are not the same, dude. Like, if it was 1953 and the girls came, from a God-fearing household, they had their father in place, religion was a thing, shame was a thing, there was no social media, women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays, I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away.
Like you're giving the ideal, which I agree with, but I'm giving the real of what they really are dealing with. These women are not the same, dude. Like, if it was 1953 and the girls came, from a God-fearing household, they had their father in place, religion was a thing, shame was a thing, there was no social media, women actually were women and they were feminine and they weren't the masculine, butchering, ridiculous women that they are nowadays, I would tell you, yes, let's do it. But unfortunately, I cannot dispense that advice. That is the equivalent to giving them a butter knife and telling them, go into this gunfight. These women are different. They've changed. Men haven't changed, but women have.
But stay away from these areas.
There's a lot to go through in that little montage of clips from the other night. Number one, cell phones are making things a little bit more accessible for women. Obviously, they have more ways to move around, more ways to get around. Also, something else too, women are going to college at a much, much higher rate. You guys can also see this with the actual vote share. More and more single women are voting Democrat. Of course, when they get married, they start voting Republican. Now, I didn't want to do this for political means, but now we've got a society that values the act of abortion as birth control. By the way, I got into it the other day on social media with somebody about birth control and how it is that people think that people on the right are against contraceptive. I think that's a misstatement. Most people, especially men on the right, don't mind if their wives or girlfriends take some form of birth control. The problem that we have is abortion as a form of birth control. That right there is the real issue. So anytime I hear someone like Destiny run his mouth about conservatives are not okay with contraceptives, that right there is a complete total mismatch. What we're not okay with is the morning after so much. You got to understand something right quick. When a girl is going through high school, say 15 to 16 years old, parents obviously cannot watch the girl at all times, so you have to, and this is where it comes down to being an actual true father, a true parent, which is something, quite frankly, I don't think we have enough of nowadays, where you will give a girl birth control, which of course you can't shield her 24/7. The more and more you try to shield a girl, the more and more she's just going to escape and find a way to do wrong or do what it is that you don't want to do. She does it out of spite. If you give her a little bit of leeway, a lot of times your daughters will actually turn out a lot better than you think. Now, granted, I understand that somebody's going to say you don't have any kids, but my response to that is I've been around a lot of people who do have kids. I've helped raise nieces and nephews, and I've also interacted with stepchildren, and the vast majority of these kids that I've run into, not just those who are actually directly kin to me, have turned out to be pretty good kids. I know their parents, and I see how their parents interact. The difference between birth control, of course, is that mostly for the pill or the shot, it's actually prescribed, whereas the morning after, for the most part, is not. That right there is the real, actual gray area there. So anytime you hear somebody say, well, conservatives just don't like birth control and contraception, no. not all of us want random babies had on our hands, okay? We're not that different than those people. Well, actually, we're very, very different the way we go about things. That's just a outright narrative that these leftoids like to pitch. But getting back on topic, women have more advantages nowadays. Let's go ahead and be honest about other things involving men as well. When divorce happens, guess who the hell typically tends to end up getting kids? Woman does. Typically, the hell ended up having control of the kids. I mean, you've got laws right now being passed where the state can actually put you away for misgendering somebody, and also at the same time the state can also now have full control over your kids. We've seen this on several occasions. There was the father in Texas who lost out on the case. The mother was okay with transitioning his child. He wanted to get involved, saying, no, you can't do that there. The couple was divorced. Women have got a lot more advantages. So I think what the red pill community is doing is teaching men how to better themselves to be able to arm themselves against what the hell is going on in society. However, here is my actual critique. Now, guys, I'm going to roll this right here. This right here was from Greg Foreman. And, of course, Black Conservative Perspective. Very, very smart guy. Very good guy. Very, actually, very, very, very underrated political commentary. I'm amazed he's not got more followers. I think he's got right at 700,000 subscribers. I think this guy should probably be at Steven Crowder level. He is that good. I'm going to play this first part for you, and I'm going to come back on the other end. And what he makes here is actually a very good point.
To just sleep with random men that they have no emotional or physical connection to, right? They're just not built for that, okay? It's not. This is why, again, women struggle with one-night stands, right? Normal women who don't sell their bodies, right? They struggle when a dude sleeps with them and then a dude ghosts them. They struggle with it. Why? Because it takes an emotional connection for most women to have sex with a man. But it's not necessarily the same thing the other way around. Men can do that because as a man, the act of having sex with a woman is an act of dominance, right? That is natural for a man to do, right? So yeah, a man can, have a one-night stand with a woman and not think twice about it because he's doing something that is natural to the nature of a man, right? There really is no emotional connection involved with it, right? It's just a physical connection. The man doesn't need the emotional part. A man can just sleep with a woman and, again, move on, not think twice about it. It is what it is. It's very hard for a normal woman to do that when it comes to sleeping with a man because she needs that real connection or the prospect of a real connection with that man in order to submit to that man, right? An act of submission is not an easy thing to do. Okay? It's really not. So these women that sell their bodies for a living to any man that will pay for it, they actually don't know how to maintain a relationship with a man, right? They don't know how to please a man or to satisfy a man outside of sex. They don't know how to. They don't know how to actually function in a relationship.
To give you guys a little bit of backup on what it was that he was responding to. It was a video in which Candace Owens went on the Whatever podcast and for about 4 or 5 minutes. In reality, she did it for about 4 or 5 hours because the episode, I still haven't listened to the full episode. It's just a 4-hour episode. I mean, it's very hard to squeeze it in, especially while you're doing other work. I'll probably listen to it tomorrow while I'm writing out scripts or getting things ready for this week, especially since I haven't posted the Gear 33 in a while. I need to get back on it. I'll probably listen to it in the background. What Greg was responding to was what Candace was telling all these girls who were sex workers or former sex workers, that men are not going to take sex workers serious. Well, what does Fresh and Fit primarily have? And they're not the only podcast. There's always other kinds of podcasts. I mean, even Sartan does too. How many of these girls are sex workers? The vast majority of them are on OnlyFans. And most of these women out there really and truly don't know how to get into a relationship and know how to actually maintain one. I've personally always believed for a long time that it was mostly girls who live in the bigger cities like, say, Miami or Atlanta or New York or Boston. It's a different thing, okay? It's a much, much different process. And a lot of these girls are basically going through what we call transactional relationships. He may have mentioned that or not. I know he mentions it in the second part, which I'll show you in a second. But the relationships are now simply transactional. Now, I can already hear somebody saying, well, aren't all relationships transactional? To a certain extent, but in good relationships, the transactional is not so much viewed as a transaction. It's viewed more as the love between a man and a woman. Look, I love having sex as much as the next man does, but the fact of the matter is if your entire relationship is based on exterior and it's based upon anything that's not actual honest to God love, it's mostly what's being transacted or what's being given to you in the form of, say, sex or whatnot, the relationship eventually hollows out, and the next thing you know, you got more of those quote-unquote 304s out there who really and truly have no idea of actually how to hold a relationship down. And then you get this next problem.
Man, right? They don't know how to please a man or to satisfy a man outside of sex. They don't know how to. They don't know how to actually function in a relationship. Because when you talk about how some of these sex workers and their daily lives go in regards to interactions with men, again, it's purely monetarily transactional. Is here's some money, and here's my companionship in exchange, okay? They don't know how to give companionship or to genuinely love somebody or want to be around somebody without getting paid for it. And that's not how normal relationships work. When you're married to somebody, you don't pay your wife to say, hey, now can you spend an hour of time with me and, you know, sleep with me and do all this other stuff after I pay you $500. That's not how it works. And that is something that a lot of these red pill guys never talk about. And it also is the reason why I think that bringing these women on these podcasts to talk about dating, especially when your target audience is young men who are living in the real world, who are not out here, you know, sleeping with sex workers all day and, you know, they're not super rich. They're just average dudes. When you're bringing sex workers on a podcast to discuss dating and relationships, you're actually not helping those men out because these women don't know anything about dating and relationships. They can't. If you listen to the whole podcast, right, they will tell you we struggle with relationships. We struggle with dating. The reason why is because they mentally have altered themselves in a way that makes it extremely hard for them to maintain a relationship. They don't know how to be in a relationship with a man that's not giving them money. They don't know how to. So when you understand that, to me, it doesn't make sense to keep bringing these women on these platforms if you're actually really trying to help young men understand women. You can't help young men understand women by talking to a prostitute. Prostitutes are not normal women. Okay, especially when we're talking about relationships. They don't have the first clue on how to have a functioning relationship.
Men will see this and then they'll automatically say to themselves, oh, she's just a hoe, she's just a hoe. Now, I'm not saying that all these men are getting negative perceptions of all women. I'm saying they're getting negative perceptions of a good amount, a good supply. I don't think that bringing these OnlyFans girls who, quite frankly, are literal prostitutes, I don't think bringing them on and smacking them down actually helps. I don't think it does, okay? And believe me, I've been around a lot of women who are not like this, who, quite frankly, are very smart, very bright, maybe not as well educated, but definitely got common sense. By the way, I want to make this point abundantly clear, especially to those out there who love to say that you social conservatives are not educated or anything. Common sense will keep you alive much, much longer than your degree. How many people have got degrees in the medical field or got degrees in the communication field and can't get a job in that field? Currently working at Best Buy, currently working at Starbucks. How many of those people do that? You have a gift, you've been educated, but yet you're not in the field. Meanwhile, the guy who fixes cars for a living, the guy who builds things, the guy who's got actual honest-to-God common sense is actually building a life and actually surviving. Most of those people don't exactly exist on this platform because the vast majority of them have got better things to do. Well, why the hell are you on this platform? Because I'm here to tell all you idiots out there who think that this education crap is key, that most of these people who live in the world, they live in the real world, think that you guys are a bunch of crazy people. Insane. Morons. That's what the hell they think. Because they know that you, quite frankly, are in fact insane. You're trying to basically say that you're morally superior to us, but yet you're not actually working an actual honest-to-God job. Common sense is key. Common sense is what needs to be had. If we had more common sense, the world would in fact be a lot better. Points. This right here is the only critique that I really and truly have of that community. Okay, you could talk about Rollo Tomasi's tweet where he says the fastest way to being a high-value man was to get a vasectomy and sleep with this many women. Which, don't worry, we'll go back to the whole contribution of the problem because I got to disagree with some of that and kind of agree with it both. But here's the thing. Rollo Tomasi, and I know I critiqued him earlier, he put that tweet out there basically to get the conversation going. Do I think he really and truly believes that all men need to go out and get vasectomies? I don't think he believes that at all. I know somebody's going to say, well, what about you? Look, let me go ahead and say something right now. I will never, ever, ever get one of those. Okay. The reason why is because men, if they want to, they can start a family at any age. They can do that. It reminds me to leave another video in the description box. I think it was actually Stefan Molyneux made this point about why it is that men typically don't want to marry hot women. I don't fully agree with that, but he definitely made some very good points. Men can actually start a family at any age, okay? They can actually do that. Women can't do that at all. Women, after a while, eventually they begin to run out, and men typically tend to want to go after younger women. As I have said before in the videos, I think what we're looking at is an eventual situation where the younger women end up flocking to older men. Now, I know somebody's saying, there ain't no way in hell a bunch of 18, 19-year-old girls are going to end up with men in their 40s. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about age 25 to 29-year-old women who've not been married or have been married at a very, very young age, who've gotten their life together after they may have gotten pregnant at a younger age or have gotten married because they were young and stupid at the time. They're going to be the ones who end up with the men in their late 30s and early 40s. I've personally seen this. And I've also stated that we have an incoming crisis going on with men right now, especially given the economy is very bad and given the amount of single men that we have. More and more men are going to be forced to go into the military, especially seeing how it is we're looking at a potential World War III scenario here in the next few years. This right here would also be accelerated if a guy got elected president, could only be there one term. The only thing he could do was sign absolute reforms, which, by the way, I'm very, very much in favor of. But the fact of the matter is this here. We are now creating a situation where the crisis is becoming much, much more abundantly clear. So I do think that the red pill does, in fact, help men navigate these waters and actually help keep them out of some form of actual harm, keep them away from doing bad stuff themselves. However, the critique that I have with community is that I don't think that they're giving us the full picture and the full realism of actual women. I think when Tim Pool earlier in that podcast had brought up the fact that you have more girls small town, this type of stuff here, if you girl and meet at church, that it's less likely that she's going to have a closet full of skeletons, or it's going to be less likely that she's going to have a list of men that have been running a train on her entire life. I find that to be less likely. I think a lot of this has got to do with the location that you're in, and obviously being at the college and being at the university does, in fact, have something to do with that. But I also think at the same time that maybe some of these podcasts may be giving men a negative perception, or maybe not giving them a realistic. My last point. When they were asked earlier, aren't you just contributing to the problem by telling men to go sleep with 50 women? I don't think that's contributing to the problem. I think that every man at some point in time, like I said before, knows when to separate the good from the bad. Most men do, and I don't think men get enough credit for that. As far as sleeping with that many women, yeah, that might be a little bit too much or whatnot, but I think in a lot of ways what Myron and Fresh were trying to say is that maybe you should be trying to date out there and date a bunch of women. But here's the thing, though. Most men are not going to get to that mark anyways. What's going to happen is that most men are going to date 2 or 3 or 4, and then finally they're going to, get one of them that gets beyond the 3rd or 4th date with that person. Next thing you know, you're in a relationship, and after months or years, you will know whether you want to marry that person. I understand that the prospect of being with somebody for, say, 5 or 6 years, and all of a sudden she dumps you, or all of a sudden she runs around you, or God forbid you do something yourself, that's a very, very scary prospect of that happening. But still, at the same time, though, it is better for you to actually go out there and take a chance and try to meet somebody. If you stay inside of a cocoon, or you stay inside of an insulated hole in permanent solitude, the only thing that's going to happen is that your testosterone levels are going to go down. They're going to go way down. Next thing you know, you're going to end up becoming a complete total shell and parody of yourself. And at the same time, you're also going to be emotionally closed off, and it's going to lead to more problems down the line. Love is very, very key, and quite frankly, it needs to be sought out. So I do believe that the red pill community does in fact help in this regard. However, as I've said on multiple occasions before, I'm not okay with the blue pill community because quite frankly, it just creates friggin' simps. It creates very, very effeminate, weak men. And number 2, I'm not okay with the black pill community because while they may tell the truth about some things, you're also telling men flat out that they've got no chance. This is one of the reasons why I think that the combination of the red and white pill is the correct way to go. With that right there being said, guys, just know that the vast majority of men out there know how to separate the good from the bad, and they know when too much is too much. I have full, total faith in the men out there to not go too far with this type of messaging. I have full faith that men are actually beginning to get smarter. However, there are some critiques out there with the red pill, of course, that I understand 100% completely. And I do think that actual experience in the field is needed, but I also think the right type of presentation is also the best way to go as well. Not just lining up a bunch of sex workers who, by the way, are going to completely regret everything that they did, because as I've said in previous videos, that even if you are an OnlyFans girl out there who didn't really make a whole lot of money or had her photos leaked online long after she quit doing what she was doing, it's obviously something that people will ultimately not end up feeling good about, and that's not exactly the way things should be, okay? I just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out before I end the video. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. Tell me where I'm wrong at, and I'll speak to you guys later.